either I'm employed, I'm not employed, I always have the same mentality of ownership. There's a concept of being an entrepreneur, even when you're within a company. And literally, what that means is you just assume the position of the owner and you make decisions from that lens.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, viewers. Depending on where you're watching from, this is another exciting episode of The Adventures, and I am your host, Kunle Olufemi. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this very edition. You know that on Adventures, we seek to bring you the stories of courage and vision behind the brands and the organizations that you interact with every day. And our hope and aspiration is as you listen to their stories, as you hear their success about their success journeys, you can take a learning or two from what they've done right, and you can also take a few learnings from what they've done wrong. And by so doing, you can accelerate your own journey to entrepreneurial success and you can avoid some of the pitfalls that they experience in their journeys. And today is not going to be an exception as I've brought you another exciting guest in the person of Mr. Lanre Ogungbe. Mr. Lanre Ogungbe is a co-founder and the CEO of Prembly. You see, at times when I try to talk about some of these organizations, I don't do as much justice to it as the guests. So what I will try to do today, we just read their mission very simply, right? And then I will allow Larry to go into the details of what Prembly does, and then we will take it from there. So basically, Prembly is health on a mission to safeguard digital businesses in emerging markets, particularly to transact globally while building trust with customers. And I dare say that that is a very laudable mission to be on. So, welcome on the
Thank you.
adventures, Larry.
Thank
Welcome.
you. Thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you. Nice to be here. Really excited
it's,
to be here.
it's my pleasure. My pleasure. So, Larry, like I was saying just before we started, if you can tell us a little bit about it, and we will get a little bit into the all the history and all of that. But if you can tell
Mhm.
us a little bit about Prembly, what it does, right? How it does some of the things it does without divulging any IP, right? And then the scale of your operations, your client base, right? Just to give our audience an idea of the scale of what you do and the impact you're making, and then we will go from there. Does that make sense?
Does perfectly. Does. It does.
Thank you.
And again, thank you so much for inviting me to be here. Really
Sure.
excited to be here, especially when I do have the opportunity to share my personal stories and, of course, what we've done at Prembly. So, at Prembly, basically, we allow a lot of people, even when they do not know, to be able to access both local and global services. Either you're talking about financial services, you want to open a bank account, you want to send money, you want to issue, your debit credit card. When you apply to institutions and you need to be vetted and verified. When you apply for an international job or local job and you need to be checked. Literally, Prembly is the gateway for a lot of brands across the globe right now, where we tell and I'm explaining this in a very layman language so that I don't get it into the buzzwords. Yeah, so we tell our businesses, our customers, that you are actually who you say you are at the point of transaction. So if I want to travel, or I want to, get admitted into a school, or at the healthcare center, I want to get a service, and I say, my name is Larry. Prembly is the service that says, yes, this is truly Larry, and this is not Kule, this is not Wale, or this is not someone else trying to access the services. I mean, we can get into why we're doing this. Even though we in a sense have some idea, we understand the concept of Nigerian prince, we understand the concept of cyber theft. We can get into those details, but and many of them could be stereotype, and
Yeah,
I agree. So, but we ensure that um, millions and millions of people every
yeah,
single month
yeah,
can be verified, can actually, you know, access the services that makes their lives better every single
Mm,
day.
mm,
From a technical standpoint, people call it KYC, so know your customers. Some call
yes.
it KYB, know your business. When you want to onboard vendors.
Mm,
Customer compliance, business compliance, by the way, customer due diligence, anti-money laundering screenings, transactional screenings, checking for political exposed persons. Yeah, so these are some of the nomenclatures within the space where we work in. But literally, from a layman perspective, we just ensure that every single person can access both local and global services from the comfort of whatever business they're dealing with. That's what we do.
wow, thanks a lot for sharing that. And
You're welcome.
no, you will recall that when I read out your mission, I said something like, "I dare say that is a very laudable, right, laudable mission because I am a Nigerian,
Yeah,
right? I live abroad. I live in the
yeah.
UK, right? And I know our realities
Hmm.
like every day. And some of those realities, like you rightly said, they are stereotypes, but some of
Yes.
them are not necessarily stereotypes, right? Because
Yeah.
as our people will say, the bad people have spoiled good people,
Yes.
so to say, right? So the role you play within the business ecosystem is so pivotal, right? Because
Hmm.
it means that without organizations like yours, right, there are a lot of outfits or business entities out there that would not want to have any discussion
Hmm.
with businesses around sub-Saharan Africa. They don't even want to have conversation because of what people have done in the past, right? That is, rubbing off on some of us. Now,
Yeah.
if you can double click a little bit into some organizations that you support today in terms of these in identity verification and all of that
Yeah.
globally and locally, I think that will help our viewers get some kind of idea.
Yeah. And thanks so much. And you're right on the context that you just applied to this. Rightly so. A lot of businesses, of course, risk mitigation is one of the big things. You want to ensure that you're bringing in the right people. So, and that's what we come in. The on businesses that we serve, I mean, like you said, we serve both local and international businesses. Most of the banks, most of the top banks we have in Nigeria today uses our software and our technology, either from an API perspective. So talking about Union Bank, talking about Access Bank, talking about Providence Bank, talking about UBA, like some of the top banks that you have in the country today, export today rely on our infrastructure. Internationally, you're talking about London Stock Exchange markets where you want to buy stocks, either you're from most emerging countries and they use some of our technology. You're talking about Mastercard, for instance. You're talking about Uber, for instance, where you want to become a driver on Uber in some countries, they use some of our technology.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're talking about Unilever, for instance, and they want to do hiring, they want to deal with vendors because they're in the
Mm,
FMCG space, and they want
mm.
to be sure that they're dealing with the right vendor, and not some vendor that we scam them or we put them into a very high risk
Exposure, yeah.
position. Yes.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean today we serve actively. We have over 600 top businesses that would use our technology at least every single month, at least every single month. If you expand that across, more than 1 month, in 2 months, that's way more. But on a guaranteed level, businesses within sub-Saharan Africa, outside of sub-Saharan Africa, in North America, Europe, UK, Middle East as well. Where we have some of our customers. So from big banks to neobanks, fintechs, and I'm talking about fintechs. I mean, we know a lot of some of these fintechs. Either you're talking about, from either fintech that are helping with cross-border payments like Lemfi, or yeah, many of these big players use some, or those that are doing investments like Bamboo, HAP, or you're talking about even microfinance banks, very small microfinance banks in different regions and communities across Africa, and big businesses in Canada and US as well that uses our technology. So FedEx, for instance, is one of our customers. UPS is one of our customers. You'll be surprised that sometimes when you want to send some packages to developed countries, you need to be verified. You need to submit some form of ID, right? Just to be sure that if if you're transacting, if you send like the wrong package, they can at least report it to the
Yeah.
security agencies. Yeah. So these are some of the categories of
Client
people that
base
we
that
serve. Yes. Yes.
wow. And thanks a lot for sharing that. That's super helpful because I mean, if you're looking at like did you say 600
Yeah. Business active businesses every single
businesses
month. Yes.
on a month-on-month basis, right?
Yes.
That
Yes.
is, if you want to count them, I mean,
Yeah.
assuming they're all unique businesses, that's upward of 6,000 customers, business customers. Now, if we extrapolate that to say that maybe some of these businesses have 1,000 people that they get to verified once in a year,
Mhm.
right? And that's we're looking at upward of 6-7 million people. That is on a very
Well,
conservative.
we do about half of that every single month actually.
Can you imagine that? I was
Yeah.
just trying
So,
to be conservative for you.
yeah. Just last year, for instance, we stopped over 20 million fraud cases from happening.
Wow.
Um, we do way more above that. Every single month we're verifying uniquely. We're verifying way over 3 million individual uniquely.
Individuals.
It could
Wow.
be, and that when I say uniquely could mean that we could verify way more than that. So we could verify, five, seven, eight.
But some of them
But
are eight
yeah, but they're
or
like doubles. So you could have
yeah,
one person that
using this
verified in a particular bank. The same person also went to go and open a bank account
service
also in the
somewhere.
same bank. So we count that as one, right? But
Okay.
uniquely, yeah, we do way,
Way
over
more.
3 million every
I mean,
single
like
month.
I said, I ran the numbers in my head. I figured that I was being, overly conservative,
Which is
right? But
fine.
I didn't want to. So really glad to hear that. I mean, 3 million verifications every month, and
Mhm.
all of these you do,
Yeah.
and you're not like in the face of, everybody. People don't even know
Yeah.
Prembly, right? You're just
Mhm.
I like your business model. You're just there. You're making things happen quietly.
We regard ourselves as infrastructure player, right?
Hmm.
So we regard ourselves as those guys that's building the right data trail across the emerging market that allows the seamless transaction to happen. When you send money from Congo to Rwanda, for instance, there's so many players involved, right? From the switching companies to the holding banks to the identity system that will confirm that this money is not going for terrorism. Um, to a lot of regulatory, those that would check the regulatory framework around amortization. So there are a lot of things that happen. So we play the infrastructure game, right? We play the infrastructure game, and we ensure that, because just like, I'm sure you know this, we kind of lack, as much as we lack physical infrastructure in a lot of way in emerging countries. We also lack some digital infrastructure. And so, we don't have the resources to play in the physical infrastructure, so we decided to play in the digital infrastructure. So that's why, and because we do strictly just with what's it called? We do strictly just with businesses, right? So we hardly have, we don't have the B2C side, by the way. We just have B2B, even though we somehow have a product that could go into the B2C side, but it's not something that we've explored. But just to also state, we work very closely with some government infrastructure as well. So we help a lot of governments to power a lot of infrastructures that people today use. So, for tax payments, for government initiatives, many of those things need data infrastructures where we also
Yeah.
play. Yeah.
Wow. 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 Thank you. I am so tempted to go into. I'm not a tech person, by the way. I am a sales guy, right? But some tech questions are popping up in my head, and I received grace to say no to those questions. So I will focus on what matters.
I'm happy to take some tech questions as long as it's not too tech.
No, I think also for our audience, right? We may not be so
True, true, true.
interested
Valid.
in tech as much as in the wisdom that you want to share around how you started and how you navigated the different terrain. So I think probably stay away from the tech now. Maybe we'll get into it later on if it becomes important. But I have a funny question for you, and then a follow up question on that. Right? The funny question is. I've looked into the tech ecosystem, right? And at the top of my finger, I can count three, maybe with you four, businesses that ended with ly, right? Like so I know a friend that has a business called Obtainly, right?
I know.
And I know of another business called, I think is it Remitly,
Yeah.
right?
That's opportunity is Stefan, right?
It's Cepha, yeah. Cepha and
Yes,
Hi
yes.
were in PNG together, right?
Okay.
Cepha and Hi and Crystal were in PNG at about the same
Nice.
time, right? So,
Nice.
Obtainly, I know I've heard of Remitly. Now, you, this is Prembly. What is it? Should I go and add ly to my name? Will it command some extra?
May, may, just maybe. I just don't know, and that's a very tricky one. That's a very tricky one actually, because I don't know if we have enough data to back up that most of the LY companies get to unicorn level or get successful. I
Okay.
we would have to do that research, right? But maybe who knows? Maybe the best ones are the ones that have the LY, or the ones solving the most critical problems are the ones that have
Probably
the
I don't know.
LY.
I
Who
have
knows?
the
Who
ly.
knows?
Okay, I can as well
Um,
just add ly to my name or
yeah, who
something.
knows?
So.
But we never thought about that, by the way. We never thought about the LY thing. There were three things that we're looking for. There were three things we were looking for when we thought about the idea of the name. Just three things. One was a name that doesn't mean anything. We don't want something that means anything. And I strongly always recommend to um, a lot of people, especially in the business space, when it comes to branding or when it comes to getting a name. You don't want a name that, when you call it in a different country, it's an abusive word. Or when you change it into another language, it means something else. So we wanted a name that was neutral. You can't say it means something in English or it means something else in Spanish or whatever it is. That was the first one. Second one is, has anyone built any brand ownership around it? So if you set Prembly, how many people is called Prembly? How many brands are called Prembly? How many logos have you seen about Prembly? I mean, so we wanted a name that no one has built it because it's just quite easy for us to be unique, right? And the third one is, we wanted a name that when I tell you, you don't have to ask me, can you spell it for me? Um, because we've seen how, at least for me personally, I've seen how you call a particular brand name and you still have to spell it to the person. And after you spell it, they will say, okay, is it .com, .co, which one? And I'm not saying this because, I mean, I know right now getting names is one of the most difficult things, but try try as much to tick as many boxes around, making sure that if you have a brand, especially if you're calling yourself a brand and you have a bigger brand calling themselves that same name, you would struggle with recognition. You may struggle with high peak conversation. You may struggle with your customers, not knowing which one is which. If you have a name that someone has to say, what do you say? Do you want to spell it for me? That may be a problem as well. So those were the three things we're just looking at, and that was it. Nothing else.
I mean, it was just an interesting question. Like I said, like it just popped up in my head. I was like, okay,
Yeah,
I know Cepha is doing this. I know this. I've heard this. And I
that,
know a few others,
that,
right?
that was it. That was it.
But again, nothing to just a funny question. And
Yeah,
thanks for sharing those perspectives that
you're
you shared
welcome.
around even the choice of a name, right?
Yeah.
Like you rightly call out, finding the business name. Now, I'm not sure it's a Nigerian thing alone. I think it's a global thing.
It's not as easy as people think. It's not
Who
finding a name, finding a domain. Yeah,
It's a
that
lot
that
of work.
it's a
It's a
lot.
lot of work. It's a lot of work. Totally agree with you. So, and I'm sure that people will find these tips you've just shared very helpful, right? Something that doesn't mean anything, so that people don't start misinterpreting or translation. It doesn't get lost in translation, right? It's not already honed, right? And finally, it's easy to pronounce, easy to relate with, and there is no complexity around. Okay, get a biro and a jota. Let's just to pronounce. So those are very helpful. Now, I so I'm torn. I want to go in two directions, but I think is I want to ask about how it all started, Prembly journey and all of that. But I'm not sure if I want to start from there. If I want, or I should go a bit farther back, right? Because at times the things we do are our stories cannot be fully told by the things that people see about us, right? So people see you do Prembly today and they think that maybe you just arrived on the scene, right? But who knows? Maybe there have been one or two, three, four Premblys before this Prembly that nobody. Do you get what I mean, right? So at times, the details of our stories, right, before what is seen or what is obvious, at times tells a lot, and people can learn a lot from it. So I'm tempted to really to go a bit further back. That if you can tell us a little about yourself, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Your background. I know that you schooled to an extent in Nigeria, and then you've navigated your way just a little bit, and then we'll get into Prembly in the course of
Yeah.
the conversation. Is that okay?
Okay. Yes, and you're right. A lot of people, which we need to give people grace as well. Sometimes we bore them with the what have you done before you got to this point, right? Because just like as humans, we always appreciate the success stories and not the process. But actually, the details is actually in the process. And so, for those that are curious enough, they'll always know that I don't need to stare too much on this person's success or what this person has done. Maybe I want to spend more time on the process and see if I can replicate something like that. So for me, I kicked off my entrepreneur energy, I would call it, when I was in college, my first university, right? My idea, but it was more from a social enterprise perspective. So my idea was has always been, how can I make impact? That's always my question. How can I make impact? How can I be helpful? How can I move through a particular institution or a particular location, and I can, even if I'm not remembered, I can comfortably tell myself that and pat myself at the back to say, you did your best. Or at least you tried. So the first thing I did in my college was to join um, a student organization called Enactors, and I was very very much invested in it so much so that I would use my tuition, my school fees, to do community based projects. So I would go to communities with my team members, and we will identify the problems that they face, but we will solve it from a perspective of what resources or what do they have that we can use to solve this. So we don't just import solutions to them. We do this pull and approach kind of analysis where you don't, you don't, you pull the solution directly from people rather than you just pull solutions to them. Because sometimes and that's where you do like need assessment and some of those things. And that's where I started from. So I was doing a lot of community based projects. Now, the idea also of community based projects is, when we were doing that back then, is do a project where people can sustain themselves even after you left school, right? So do a project that, number one, changes the economic value, but they could also continue, right? They don't have to rely on you, right? So that's where the business side also came into community-based projects, and that's where I took interest in, why can't I go into business, right? And so from there, I mean, I did computer science and education in my first degree. My idea
Mm.
was I was supposed to be a teacher, but you know, I I flipped I
You're still
flipped I flipped
teaching.
that script. I flipped that script over. I flipped that script over. And even though I still teach right now, in terms of what we're doing right now is teaching, right?
Yeah,
But not
yeah,
not not
yeah,
the, not the structured way. But
yeah.
we do know it. And that was then on. And I think just from there went on. Got my first employment. Got my second employment. What I would say is, for all my employments, and by the way, I got my first employment even before I finished my college. Right then, the
Mm,
same university that I finished from
mm.
offered me an ad hoc staff as
A
an ad hoc
role.
staff.
Mm,
Um, and I would vivid this, and I would comfortably say that, regardless of, and you talk to customers from that lens, and that portrays your passion, even though the owner may not be the best boss or may not be the best person. And I'm not saying, I mean, I have very good bosses. I'm not, but I'm just saying, literally, that was my mindset, right? And that was where I just went on from. And you're right, I did postgraduate diploma in London School of International Business. I did an MBA at Johns Hopkins University. I think I'm probably just going to do maybe something very soon, maybe a PhD or a doctorate. I don't know, whatever interest comes in. But I've done a lot of certifications across the globe as well. But yeah, those are some of the touch points and some of the things I've done. I don't know if there's any aspect of it you would like me to go deeply into.
Thanks a lot for sharing that. I mean, it's good to to hear where you picked, like you call it, right, your entrepreneurial energy from, right? And I'm just tempted to double click a little bit into some of the things you said.
Mhm.
I grew up in Nigeria, right?
Yeah.
First, you can tell from the way I speak and my memory that we know ourselves, right? So I grew up in Nigeria. I
Yeah.
know the environment very well. I
Mhm.
know how transactional and how cutthroat, right, the business landscape, not just even the business landscape, the interpersonal relationships can be, right? People just want to, if you allow it, right? Okay, so I think the nice way to say that is that you need to be street smart to survive, right? Because everybody is out for themselves, right? It's just very purely transactional to a large extent. We are good people, we're loving people, but when we get into the arena of commerce, right, it's just crazy. Or where a lot of people, and putting all of that in the background, I'm wondering how you came up with that mindset of, I'm not here to take, right? I want to add value. I want to make impact. I want to make a difference. And if it will cost me my tuition, and that must have been very dangerous, by the way. That must have been dangerous, by the way. But if it will cost me my tuition to make a difference in the life of people, I want to do that, right? That was something quite unusual given that kind of environment, that kind of landscape, right, or social landscape. Where did you get that kind of thinking from? Number one. Number two is something you also mentioned, you know again, about ownership, right? Ownership is also, it's borderline altruistic, right? Because you're not just out for what you want to get, right? You're doing, at times, ownership requires that you even deny yourself and do something in the best interest of the entity, right? Though you are not the owner, right? And then then you're acting like the owner, you're doing stuff like the owner. These are not qualities you just pick up on the streets, right? These are, I'm sure that something must have led to that. So if you can just double click into that, maybe
Yeah.
we
I,
can
I
take one or two learnings.
thanks for the question. So one, the first one, which is the
Impact driven,
making
yeah,
impact driven and all that. First I'll give credit to my parents, specifically my mom, right? um, the upbringing really helps, and I would really say that parent needs to do they need to do their job in terms of just helping form the right narrative on the children. But there's also a concept in Yoruba, and you're also Yoruba, and I'm sure you know this. There's a concept around, and I'll say this in Yoruba. We can translate it. The idea around "toba bi ekotura ibi."
yeah, yeah,
Um, and that literally just means, yes, we've been given birth to, just do rebirth of yourself,
yeah,
or
yeah.
reincarnation, or whatever, but maybe
Essentially,
rebirth of yourself.
yeah.
But literally, what that means is, some of us have the luxury of having good parents that would wake you up, by the way, at 5 a.m. every single day. At some point, it used to be 4:30. All my childhood, and you
Mm,
spend the first few minutes, the first 1 hour of your day, every single day,
mm,
from Bible to prayer to everything, and you spend about
mm.
30 minutes talking and talking and talking, and everything you've done bad yesterday and all that.
Give
During that time,
accounts.
you know, during that time, it wasn't the best. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't think I'm gonna apply the same way for my own kids.
Mm,
But essentially, that from the context of where we are from, right, that helps, right, that helps. And but many of us, not everybody have the luxury of that kind of upbringing, right? And so it's usually important for people to do self-reflection and say, can I, okay, so I didn't have the best upbringing, right? Can I, you know now give birth to myself again and say, this is the kind of person that I want? And I'm saying this because the idea of impacts, literally, apart from the fact that it's selfless, is literally one of the best ways to be outstanding and to stand out in anywhere you are, any field. And it's almost like a cheat code. It's and here's why I say so. When I was in school, I envy and I love, apart from the psychological effect that it gives to me, or the positive energy and everything. I love when I go into some of these communities and I can still vividly remember them. And those women would come and hug me. I was quite young, nothing. I mean, they would hold me and hug me. And they would say prayers like, you never suffer, you make it. Religion out of it. I mean, a lot of us are not as much religious as we used to be back then anymore. But when you get that level of positivity and you get that level of good kind, very genuine, and someone is saying, because of you now I can feed my child, because of you now I can live, you probably few steps are ahead of a few people. A lot of people may not believe it, but that's the honest truth, because you have the right energy coming to you and you see life in a little bit different way. I've always maintained the idea, and like I said, this came from my mom. Always I have the idea that we're not in this world just to wake up, eat, sleep, work, and go back to sleep again. And before you are 90, it
Check
should be
out.
you check out, yeah. Which all of us will check out. All of us will check out eventually.
Yeah.
Um, and number two as well, I don't know if you watch some of this, but I do watch some of these clips. You watch some of these clips where you do interviews where some vloggers go interview like people in their 70s and 80s. By the way, I'm going to connect this dot. I know I'm saying a few things, but and they will ask them, what do you regret most in life? And they would tell you, maybe I should have been my better version. I should have done this, I should have done that. So two things. I look at the idea of, I don't want to get to my 70s, 80s, 90s and have a regret to say, maybe I should have helped. Maybe I should have sent this person something. Maybe I should have been a little bit more. I want to be very old, look back and say, I tried, and smile. I tried, and if that comes, that comes. Those things did Beth, even though, like I said, I have very good, childhood and upbringing. It also did. There was a natural rebel that came in around. One, I want to be able to. I don't want to just wake up, eat, sleep, because that's one of the easiest things to do in the world. And I'm saying this in a very nice, because I know it's very difficult for a lot of people, and there are billions of people that cannot eat and sleep because. So I'm not being yeah, there's business of that. Yeah, so acknowledge that. But on a normal circumstance, when you have the right government and you have the right environment and you have the right, everybody should be able to sleep and wake and eat and sleep and wake and eat. And every other thing is just from the Maslow hierarchy. And so that's one. And number two as well is some concept of um, I don't. I want to be able to live very old and say I tried. I won't have everything. I won't get everything. I won't own everything. But I tried. I tried. I did. The least I wish I can do. And that's where the concept of ownership. That's where the concept of the mindset of making impact and all that came in. Very quickly on the other one, when it comes to ownership, you're right that we as humans are very transactional. Now it's way it's worse in the concept of Nigeria. It's it's not the best. But then I operate from a perspective. The few things that where I operate in, one is I enjoy the idea of delayed gratification. Um, like I said, there's also another shit code that people don't know. Look into a lot of the best entrepreneurs, the best people. They would rather say, let me don't let me eat the best protein today so that I can eat any food I can next month. I see a lot of young people. I'm still young, but I see a lot of younger people in the younger generation where they rather have the best devices, best stuff, best now, now, um, now, and what they do not know. And I'm not saying enjoy when you can enjoy, have fun, but when you're younger and you have the luxury of time, because the only thing you have is luxury of time when you're younger. As you older, when you become older and you have other responsibilities, you have kids, you have wives, you have husbands, you have other families and all that. Sometimes you don't have the luxury of that time anymore, and even your body will tell. When you have the luxury of time, the two things I would strongly recommend that people should focus on, which I did. when I was much younger. One is invest in yourself. The best thing you can do is invest in yourself through education, through language, through network. Just invest in yourself. Don't worry where it's going to come back. Just there's some like I did computer science and education. All my colleagues, because like I said, we were doing half computer courses, which were not really the heavy ones. And no, we're doing like 40% computer and about 60% education. So we're being trained to be a teacher. I started to take I started to take extra courses in computer science. So typically in a semester you have pointing numbers now. You typically you have my colleagues do maybe like 9 courses. I typically take between 13 to 14 every single semester. I would literally go meet my course manager, my course advisor, we call them course advisor, and say, I want to take more computer science course. And they say, this will affect your grade. Yeah, that's fine. Because I don't know when I'll use it. Fast forward down the line, I was done with college. My first job was to be an IT manager. After my second job, after my university job. And few months later, my direct line manager got a new job, left, and I was promoted to become the IT manager. Um, and just to state, from the first job I had in college up till now, which I now self-employed, I've never really physically go to a place or virtually do a job interview. It's either be somebody just refer to say, "Hey, Larry, we have a role. We know you're good here. Come get it." So I would strongly say that, and I'm not saying this out of spite. I'm just saying this because I spent a lot of time investing in myself. So I would always recommend that people should invest in themselves, and that's why the ownership thing came in. The second thing would be the delayed gratification, like I did say. Just it's going to work. Just delay it right now. And so those two things made me to have less of the old transactional and yeah mantra that people do have. And so it just made it super easy for me to really, really have that ownership perspective of if I own this business, how would I want my employees to interact with me? How would I want my colleagues to talk about me? How would I and I would be that employee that would be the first to get to work. I'll be that employee that would probably complain and also have solutions. I hardly would always point finger to say the leaders are the bad. Even till now, even when I criticize political leaders, I look at it from an angle of okay, so now I'm done criticizing. What do I think this person could have done? Right? Because it's so easy to criticize. It's so easy to complain. It's so easy to give and take.
All right.
But yeah, sorry, I don't know if I answered the question, but I know I,
No, you
I
did.
went
You
somewhat too
did.
long.
No, you did. And thanks a lot for sharing that. I mean, to be honest, it's a bit scary when as you were sharing and as I'm trying to process it, right? I became a bit scared, and this is what I mean. I'm not sure if your mom or your dad were business people. They were probably just regular folks, right?
But my mom was into business, but not I mean not the scale, the very small
Not
ones.
this, yeah. So when they were raising you, they were not raising you to be a business leader. They
No,
were
no,
just
no.
raising you to be a normal citizen that will contribute to society.
Yes, and a 9 to 5. They were not raising me. There was no business
There was
conversation
no
in the
ambition.
room. Yes,
You
yes,
understand? Let's just raise you to be a good neighbor, right? Somebody
yes,
who can live productively within
yes,
in the community of people, right? And
yes,
will not just be a taker.
yes.
And I'm not sure it would have crossed their imagination, in their wildest imagination, that
Mhm.
some of these little things they are building into you, waking up very early,
Yeah.
teaching you values, they would not have. There was no way they could have, imagined that these things will have this level of impact,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And now the flip side is the scary part, right? The flip side of that is the scary part, right? And is that if they've taught you to be fraudulent,
Yeah.
if they've now, I'm not sure any sane parent will go out and say, "I need you to be fraudulent," right? But if they've
But
modeled it
hmm
for you one way or the other, right?
yes,
All of that too will come out,
yes.
perhaps at a scale that is significantly higher than whatever they were envisaging, right?
But we're a product of our environment.
Mm.
We're all a product of our environment. We what we say, what we see, what we hear, what we even when you a lot of sometimes, I mean, I'm sure this applies to you as well. There's some songs that you know right now that you did not consciously listen to, but because somebody was listening somewhere or you kept playing, you just see that one day someone, you're
Just,
just humming the song
you just,
yourself.
yeah,
And just like the brain stops developing maybe at age 25. So between age 25 down to age zero, the brain is recording every single event, every
yeah,
single activity, and then you model yourself with that piece of information.
without stuff. Mm.
That's literally what it is. But then, like I did say, there's a concept of you also determining the kind of person
Be
you want to be and the
conscious
kind of
about it.
life, and you have to be conscious about it.
Yeah,
Because no, there's no perfect parent, there's no perfect upbringing, there's no
yeah,
perfect siblings, and sometimes you just want to stick to the ones that are good, and be gracious enough for the ones that are not good, and say, now I'm an adult on my own, and now I should be able to make decisions. And I'm not saying this because this is easy to do. It's
yeah.
not. It's not. But somehow, when you make the tough decisions, you get better for it.
Larry, I can't agree more. To what you just said. I'm totally on the same page with you. Right. The truth of the matter is there is always going to be some form of pain, right?
Yes.
Either the pain of you know doing it right and doing the
Yes.
right thing, or the pain of not doing it. One way or the other, that pain will suffer. So I think,
Exactly.
yeah, I guess I think your guidance is around us choosing choosing our pain, right? Choosing our poison and say, which one do I want to take? And I totally,
Yeah.
by the way, my background is also in education economics, right? So
Oh, okay. Nice.
the whole nature nurture, thing, and
Hmm.
I how they come together to form who we are. I mean, that was very helpful to see how some of these events have kind of shaped you into the kind of man that you have to, and how one at one step or the at one stage or the other, they continue to shape. Of course, you've been deliberate also, but everything coming together, is as help you to become the kind of man that you are today. And I hope that the entrepreneurs that are going to listen, or even people who will listen who are not necessarily entrepreneurs, right, can take comfort in the fact that I don't have to start a business to impact the world. I can raise my son right. I can raise my daughter right. I can, and they will go on to do something that will impact. I mean, look at what you do today. You verify 3 million, people on a monthly basis, right? If you are one, funny individual, dodgy individual, right? Who will trust you to do that?
To do
Do
the
you get
same
what I
thing. Yes.
mean?
Yeah.
Now, let's get into the whole verification. Now that we're talking about
Let's get to
verification,
business.
let's get back into the business, right?
Yes.
Now, about Prembly,
Yes.
right? How did it all start?
Okay. So Prembly in itself started almost accidentally. The initial idea was to do a payment solution. So the whole idea was to do biometric payments. That was the
Biometric
whole,
payments.
yeah, that was the entire concept.
When was
So
this?
this was in 2019.
2019. Okay.
So the idea was you walk into a store and you pay with anything biometrics, face, fingerprint, voice. You don't need your card anymore. You don't need your phone anymore. No, that was the entire idea. We did it in 2019. 2020, we were done. We were able to connect your
Did you call it Prembly then?
no identity pay. Identity pay. That's what we call it.
Identity pay. Okay.
Identity pay. And so, and of course, if you search identity pay right now on the internet, you probably still see one or two articles on it. So we and I'm not going detail into how challenging it was, how it was so difficult because what we were doing was to replace the 4 digit pin
Okay.
with a biometric
Fingerprint
authenticator.
or
Yeah,
okay, retina
that's what
scan.
we're doing. So we would need to convince the processor, the card processor, that as much as you trust this 4 digit pin, you can also trust biometrics. So what that means is that if you lost your devices, if you go out with the wrong debit card or credit card, you can still do transaction. If you have an emergency, you walk into the hospital, right? They're not saying pay us before 7. Like you literally can just put your finger or your face and you're done. But like I said, we can go into that. That's probably going to be an episode how difficult it was to convince, and how rejectful it was. How the nights that myself and my colleague would go back to home and almost give up. We literally we saw some people that told us that this is never going to work. It's never going to happen. I mean, being able to switch. But 2020, we did it. And I could remember in Surulere in Lagos,
Larry, can I, if you don't mind, I know
yeah,
that but can I pause you a little bit there
yeah,
and get you to double click a little bit into that resistance that you
yeah.
experienced, right?
Okay. Hmm.
What would you consider to be the major barrier
Yeah,
then of the of the players? Was it the color of your skin? Was it that they felt you're too young? What was the major pain points that that they articulated to you? And maybe there are some that they didn't articulate to you.
yeah. By the way, I've always been used to ageism. Just
Okay.
fun fact: I started to keep my beard a long time ago because of I wanted to look old. Um, even if you you'll be surprised even when we and I'll tell you even when we transitioned to Prembly and we started to sell to banks, I've had meetings where bank executives wouldn't know I'm the CEO and wouldn't know I'm the founder, and they would direct the questions to the elderly person in the meetings. That's my staff.
Yeah.
And when I talk, they would probably just ignore my
Relax,
conversation.
relax, man. Relax, man. let's hear from the boss.
I've had the business executive tell me that you these young people, that's why let me and they had to speak to
Wow.
my older colleagues. So ageism, yeah, being young has always been a thing. I think there's a culture around it,
Yeah.
and I've experienced it more within the sub-Saharan Africa than other part of the
Yeah.
world. But doubling down on the resistance side of things, it wasn't from an ageism perspective. Literally, was just from a I would say, this there's a proverb that says if you and I can't vividly remember the exact word, but I'll paraphrase it where it says if you can't do it, allow somebody else to do it. Um there is just a we've not thought about it. Who are you
Why
to
would
think you
you?
can do it?
I see.
Right? And
I see.
we the regulators haven't thought about it. We the guys even pioneering tech in the country haven't thought about it. We the why do you think you can do it? That's one. Number two is where are you coming from? What have you done in the
And
past?
in what climate are you talking about? Is
I'm
this
talking,
in
no,
North
I'm talking about
America,
Nigeria.
Nigeria? Okay.
Yeah, I'm talking about Nigeria. This time I'm talking about Nigeria. Um, I and those are some of the unspoken body languages that we got, right? Um, and also just it was almost going to be a you guys are going to waste my time. So there's a level of disbelief. There was why would it work? Why what's going to happen? Do you guys have some millions of dollars? Because like you said, it's very transactional as well. So we didn't have millions of dollars as a back then.
Yeah.
So they probably wouldn't listen. I
Mm.
mean, fast forward when we did Prembly and we raised, over $30 million, and we are doing, just like today, we're doing, millions of dollars in revenue now. It's easier, we can get them to talk now if you want to talk. But back then, but, but, but back, but back then, it's transactional. You have to first host them to a launch and all that, and we didn't have it.
Mm.
We would enter our bus to even go to some of these offices in VI and in Abuja back then. So it was a lot of some of these factors, right, that linked up together. And people naturally open the door for those that look like them and probably speak like them. And, they have some confidence in the moment you're an outsider. And I mean this in all sense. If you're seeking, for instance, you need the political elites to help with something. If you're not the politician or you're not connected to a politician, you get some high level of resistance. If you need something within the business community and you've never done business, you've never done anything, you don't know anybody that can vouch for you, you get a high level of resistance. And that was what we faced initially. Um, but we never backed down. We never did back down. There was no point where we did back down. Um, and I think at some point we got so frustrated to a point where we did bets. We told them that so we had to, by the way, just so that because I tried to also provide solution. We said who can we meet that can speak on our behalf, right? And today I try when people reach out to me, I try to also when I can speak on their behalf. Because sometimes we don't know the leverage that that we have. We own a lot of leverage. You have leverage. You will speak to someone on behalf of, like, there's some people you probably introduce, and because you introduced me, they would, and we and would I say miraculously, or so there was I was working in an accounting firm, an accounting software firm called Accountia, and so I was head of business for that one, and I we had a client, and the client wanted to deploy the software on. She wants to deploy the software on the local. She has an home office, local device, and all that. And naturally, we don't do home visits. We just tell people, "Oh, this is how you do it." We guide them and all that. But I noticed she was an elderly person. It's probably somebody close to 70s. And I'm like, and she was in Maryland, by the way. She was in Maryland. We had our office in VIA, and I was like, "How come over? I'll come set it up for you." Right. And so I left office. Again, this is not our usual practice. But I usually do this, by the way. I usually, like I said, I usually go out of my
Got
way.
on a limb. Yeah, you went
Yeah.
on a limb.
So I left my office, went to Maryland, and we exchanged pleasantries. And from then on, and I was done with the setup, right? How much did she pay? Maybe 12,000 naira or 8,800, because we were charging 3,300 naira every single month for the deployment. So
Set.
because we deployed
Okay.
a couple of, yeah. So it wasn't really significant. Um, Even the cost of me coming was way, even maybe more. But I've always believed in the power of people, by the way, and maybe I
Mm,
can talk into that later on. The power of support system and people.
mm,
There's nobody, including Donald Trump, including President Tinubu, including anybody.
mm.
Nobody got to where they got to without people.
Yeah.
We can talk about that later on. And so before you know it, she started to call me about other things. She started to call me, "Oh, my phone just hangs right now. What can I press?" Oh, my son is coming from UK, and he just wants somebody to encourage him when it comes to tech. And I'm like, how the selling software? I became a therapist too, you know.
To mama.
To And so I would go, and just one
Mm.
of those random days. You just say, my sister, she was one of the executive of this major bank. My this is the CEO of this bank, and of this bank. And she just started, and that was it. And so one of those days that I was really frustrated, then I went to meet, and I said, "I'm sorry, I don't know if we can help introduce me to this CEO of this bank." I was like, why not? I was right there in her house, right there in her house. She picked up her phone, and she said, "I have a son that needs you. She needs to see you." Like, literally, that's how it happened. And by the way, I never bill her for anything. Usually when I go to help her out, to help her with the software, never bill her for anything. She literally made that introduction. The next day, I went into the banking hall, and that was the first time I knew. By the way, that was the first time I knew that there was something called VIP in banking hall. I entered into the banking hall. I told them the person that I was going to meet. They sent in two people from the head office. Sent in two people downstairs. They took me into an executive lounge, and I was like, "Wait, what did I do?" And from then on, went on. And people right there, people were like, "Okay, so how do you know the CEO?" I'm like, "I don't know the CEO." How do you know the CEO? I'm like, "I don't know the CEO." And I had a very short few minutes, and I said, "Sir, we want to do this." He looked at me again and said, "Are you sure?" So I want to do this. And all he had to do was to call the agency that we wanted to, because we wanted to collect BVN, by the way, BVN data, right? And the interswitching guys would say, rather than using PIN, use biometrics. And I was like, just give these guys 5 minutes, just help them, let them just test it. That's all he said. And that was what we kicked it. That was all I needed. That was the only thing I needed. That was the only call he just made a call. And the company that we've been trying to go meet, by the way, maybe I'll mention the name, Damalog. Damalog, remember back then when we were doing the BVN enrollment, they were the one doing enrollment and all that. So there was this other company in Nigeria that was, I don't know if they were connected to Damalog, but they were the one helping them do the, right? Yeah, yeah, and all that. And so we tried to get the concept and all that. And wanted to speak to NIMS. NIMS was the switching companies and all that. And that was it. And that was all we needed. And we went to this other company the next day. Like, okay, guys, let's allow you test it. And so we went on, built the biometric stuff, built the face, went back, and right then in the office they saw payments going. They saw the first one. I can remember. I think it was 10 naira, 100 naira. And we were like, "Sir, you can pay me." We give them this app on our phone, and the guy said, "Okay, I'll transfer money to you." And he took the phone up and he took a selfie, and that was all he needed to do. And 100 naira left. Of course, we couldn't load too much because we didn't have a lot of money. And I was like, okay, he was really shocked. His eyes was you could literally see how shocking it was. And I was like, okay, guys, go test this out. And that was all. We went on. We went to a couple of stores in Sulere. I can remember my co-founder. He lived in Sulere in Ogunlano Drive. I can remember Ogunlano Drive in Sulere. Downstairs, he had a very nice guy that has a store. We're like, Gaffer, let's give you a device. When people are coming, right? When people at the point of checkout, just take their selfie. That's all you need. You don't need their card or anything. Just take their selfie. And so we deployed it. We deployed it on that store again. So excited. Few weeks down the line, nobody used this. Nobody used this technology. Not one single person. It was almost depressing. We're like, wait, this. No, everybody say, wow, this is nice. This is wow, 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 wow. Please, entrepreneurs, don't follow that wow, wow. See, you want people to share your ideas with your family members,
Mm,
and your loved ones. They won't want to discourage you. They would want,
mm.
and don't force them. They want to be there, even though when they know that what you are saying is, and so, and I'm saying this because so years and months of we trying to get that technology to work. Look at how rigorous it was. We launched into the markets as a testing because we wanted to test, and nobody used it. Two
Was ahead
reasons.
of its time. It was ahead of its time.
Yes, two reasons. We got into the shop. Emeka, the guy's name is Emeka. I can really remember. A guy Emeka Alpha. And the guy said, "My people said you guys are Antichrist 666. Now how can I be paying with
Hey!
fees? Right,
Ah,
right. How can I be paying with fees? This is a mark of the beast, right?
yeah.
Um, and we never thought about that. We never thought about the idea that maybe there was a portion in the Bible that says at the end there'll be sheep, some sheep in your skin,
Yeah.
and some. We're like, how would we convince people that this is the mark of the beasts? And so we became the Antichrist. We became the Antichrist for that.
Ah,
And and the second flip, which now led us into Prembly, by the way. The second flip was uh, the guy said, okay, and again, I'm not sure that which account are you debiting? If this account does not go, are you going to debit my account? And we're like, wait, how are we going to be sure that we verify this person's account and verify this person?
mm,
So that Emeka will be assured. We're like, okay, you know what? Let's do this. We'll raise some money. We'll raise some money. We'll do some education around the mark of the beast. Maybe we can beat down with education, right? And
mm.
convince people. Um, Meanwhile, by the way, I'm going to advise entrepreneurs. Don't You need to raise ton of money to change education. If you want to change people's mindset about something, especially something that they are culturally accustomed to. Don't
It's
we
not the
saw
way to go
It's not the
from
way
the
to go. We saw
beginning.
what M-Pesa did in Kenya. People use USSD. Just build around USSD. You saw what MoneyPoint is doing. Like literally, just if people say, "I want your brand to be blue," just change it to blue. Don't argue. If you want to convince them that white is better than blue, you need to probably raise a ton of money. And sometimes in our climbs, you don't have that luxury.
That luxury. Mm.
So what we did was to say, you know what, we're going to raise money to convince and all that. But thank God we didn't do that. But the second thing was, how can we verify people at the point of checkout? That was how we moved to Prembly. We reached out to almost every single company. MoneyPoint was one of those companies we reached out to because we had friends back then there.
Mm.
And we said, how do you verify customers and all and everybody? And people were like, well, with the kind of use case we had, there was nobody doing it in real time, the kind of way we wanted to do it. There were a few players that were doing it, some I would not. And so I got to the office that day and I looked at my co-founder and I said, why don't we just do this in ourselves? Let's just verify people now.
Hang on, Larry. Hang on, Larry.
Yes.
Are you telling me that all of this you're doing, you're still working with Accountier?
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I was still working. I was still hitting my KPIs. I was still meeting my sales targets. And usually, here's what we do. So we get to the office very early. Very, I'm talking about as early as 6 we're in the office, and we do all we're supposed to do, right? And people leave the office by 5 typically, and we stay back. Myself, my co-founder typically leave the office around 10 p.m. And so what we typically do after that is literally just after that, right? And we're also very much open with our boss. By the way, we did let him know, right, that we're thinking of this particular thing, and maybe he was very open to it because he was a Belgian. He was a Belgian guy. He was an European, so maybe he understood the concept of people not shunning. And right now, I do it. I don't shun my employees when they have big ideas, right? Just know when to do it. Know that it shouldn't affect your day job. It shouldn't affect your KPIs. If how you do it, where you do it is left to you. And then we did more of these things over the weekend, by the way. So every single Saturday morning, we meet each other in our houses, and that's what we do, right? So we never did allow it to affect. So we didn't do it in secrets. We didn't. We was quite open with our boss. We did let him know. We'll do it after work hours, but we never did let it to affect anything we're doing. Um, and 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 because you won't blame me. We didn't had we're not from the richest of homes, so we still need to
You still need to survive.
we still need to survive. We still need to make ends meet. Ideas can only come when you've eaten. When you've not eaten, where's the ideas coming from? Um,
I
so
agree. I've been there.
and when people tell me right now, and I go to conferences and people are saying that how can I come up with ideas, and I say, are you hungry? If you're hungry, go eat first.
Go find something to
Um,
eat.
and well, just when we're joking, because some ideas have come from you being hungry. By the way, people who have been hungry and like, how can I feed myself right? And so people have fed themselves from being
Some
hungry.
ideas like that.
Some ideas, but some very innovative ones. You need to eat, sit back, and say, what is the biggest problem I'm facing right now, and how can I solve it? But that's so. But going back to it, so we did. So no one was doing it, right? So we did our solution to verify our own customers. December 2020, one of the businesses that we reached out to got back to me and said, Larry, were you able to solve this? And I said, yes. And they said, please, can you send us the API? I remember I was doing the API during Christmas and New Year. And by January 2nd or 3rd, we sent the APIs to them. The next day, they sent $5,000, which was around 1 million naira that day. Back then, yeah, Nigerian business. And we could allow them to verify their customers using bank verification number. And that was it.
So that means as at that time, your system is already plugged into the database of BVN or NIMC or whatever.
Yeah, but this time around through this partner, remember that we connected to through this, bank
Yes, the
and all that.
Damagog
Yeah,
guys and all
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, it wasn't Damalog exactly, but this were
Whatever
maybe
infrastructure they
consultants
built.
to consultants to Damalog. And by this time, by the way, by the time we were very serious with the testing, and by that December, we had already left account. I had already left account. I had already resigned, right, to take the risk. So and also so that I need to put this out there so that people they don't stay in the bubble of being too cautious of taking risk. I literally already resigned before we finalized all our testing, before we got our customers, before we were done with the product. By the time when I was in the company was when it was still more of an idea stage and formation and build up. The moment we were done, is it the time when we did that test? That that the test with that was when I resigned. I was just going to take a bet, and because I was like, if I'm going to go to people's offices and say this is going to work, but I'm still in the comfort of a safe net. It doesn't sound right to me. Doesn't sit right to me. It's almost as if I'm not betting on myself. So let me take the risk. So I left. I resigned, and so the months that led to that was me surviving on all the savings that I had, surviving on family support, surviving on every single thing I could get right. I was doing I would do some contract job as well to be able to just sustain myself. And so that's how I was able to navigate that entire process. But yeah, but that's it. So we got paid 1 million naira, $5,000. That same day we sent the API. The next day, I just called every single person that was working with me and I said, guys, We're no longer a payments company. We're now a verification company because we never saw that coming. We never saw that coming. Like I said, and from the first week of 2021 till now, we never looked back. We finished the first year and we almost made 100 million naira in the first year. We're like, wow. It was, like I said, accidental. It was because the moment we saw that one company needed that verification, we just went on to other business and said, wait, we spoke to this guy, they needed this verification. We just did this API. What do you need? And they were like, okay, no, yeah, send us the API. And we just sent them the API. And we just went to send in the API. And before you know, we just hired. Finished our first year, we raised and we just said, you know what? When we knew we had significant funding, sorry, significant revenue, we just went on to do a funding. We raised about $350,000. Month later, we're like, okay, let's apply to YC. We got into YC. YC gave us about $500,000. We're done with YC. Raised about $2.8 million, and we just kept on from then on, right? So that's it. Accidental. Not it wasn't. I didn't think about doing verification, but let me say, the interest of verification and this infrastructure came in after the first few weeks of that of oh something is here. Then I started to see that there are over a billion people globally with no form of ID. 81% of that number stays in sub-Saharan Africa. I started to see that. So even though I was within that premise, even though I was within that premise of problem, I didn't see it. And many of us are sometimes within there are a lot of dysfunctional things around us, but we don't see because we've not really witnessed it. It was until after someone opened my eyes to verification because I needed verification for my own payment system, right? That was when I saw that, oh, when I'm in Nigeria and I want to pay, I want to open a PayPal account. I can't open a PayPal account because I'm in Nigeria. That's when I saw that, wait, I can't, Amazon, I can't seem to sell on Amazon because they can't verify me. That was when I started to now become conscious of why can't I, so many streaming platforms as I back then, we're not allowing Nigerians to stream because they can't pay. Till today, so many streaming platforms, people cannot use their credit card to pay. They can't even access it. They have to share passwords and all that, right? And that was when I started to live in that consciousness of, okay, this is massive. This is big. And then I started to read to say, so many African countries are still disconnected. I take my Ghanaian passport to Nigeria to open a bank account. I can't open it because the Nigerian bank cannot verify a Ghanaian passport. And so I have to go and meet my embassy. My embassy needs to write something. Today, if you go to South Africa with a Nigerian identification, I can't do it. If you travel all the way to UK, you have to change to the local identification. You're still the same person. What do you have to do? And so we just say, you know what? We're going to connect all these dots. And literally that's what we've been doing since then on.
It means you're going to be busy for a very long time to come
Oh, we
because
will be busy. We will be busy. We will be busy. We know it's going to be challenging. It's been challenging, by the way. It's been interesting. We know it's going to be a lot of ups and downs. We've gone through, the eras of what you called a value of debt in startups. We know there's still value of debt in the future. That's what the ups and downs of business. And we're also going to keep getting busy. But the idea is to connect the dots around identities, around data, around security. And so the vision started to grow bigger and bigger from then on. So we started from just doing payments, switched on to let's solve it for ourselves. Somebody just said, you know what, can I give it? We received it and we said, can we just double that effect? Right. And so we said, okay, how big can this get? How can we now begin to help governments? Before we know it, we were in Sierra Leone, we were in Namibia, helping the government in Namibia create their digital identity infrastructure. Before we know it, we were powering, I don't know if you know 3MTT in Nigeria. This under this current government.
no, I don't know them.
They,
Yeah.
they want to train 3 million Nigerians on tech and all that, and we were, powering it.
As part of the
Um,
initiative of the Minister of okay
yeah, the current minister of technology, I've
of
forgotten
tech.
the
Yeah, yeah,
portfolio right now.
yeah.
And we were going from so many countries, and we're seeing so many countries reaching out to us to say, "Can you help us create uh, the digital infrastructure framework?" And literally, that was how the ball snowballed. So I would summarize it to say, you don't have to see the you. It's fine not to see the future. It's fine not to point it out. Do you see now? Just stick to now. It has a way. Steve Jobs did the reverse. He did say that when you look back, you can see the dots connecting, right? Just trust that, trust it. We are currently on podcast, right? You don't know if this is going to snowball into a TV at some point and all that. So the idea is always just stay hungry, and that's the whole idea. The whole idea of entrepreneurship is to stay hungry. Never say, "Oh, now we have enough customers. Oh, now we have enough team members. Oh, now we have enough revenue. Oh, now we have." Just remain hungry. The same hunger, even though it's difficult by then. I'm not saying this because it's been easy for me as well. It's difficult to remain humble and hungry, and humble from a perspective of, and I'm saying humble from a not the personal egos and that, but business will teach you how to be humble. Like business will humble you. You would think you will you would think you have the next salary for the next 1 year, and something's going to happen, and you get one regulatory letter, and you get one, the economy just going to crumble, and you would literally say that, hey,
And
how
crisis
can I,
overnight.
how can I,
Yeah.
things of that. So you need to literally be humble to say, I don't know this. As even the biggest business leaders, from Dangote to the Jeff Bezos and all that, you just have to still look at data and let data teach you. So from an humble perspective, look at your data trends and see what's the economy going to look like, what's the customer acquisition cost looks like, and literally be humble enough for that data to teach you. Right. I've come across a lot of entrepreneurs like myself. And I'm saying like myself in terms of the tech ecosystems and all that. That feel they can go against the number. The numbers do not lie. If the number says people don't do subscriptions in developing countries, they don't do subscriptions. There's nothing you can. If you build softwares where people have to subscribe, they don't do subscriptions. They don't do subscriptions. They may be able to do transaction. We are very transactional, right? We are very. I want to withdraw 1,000 naira. I can give 100 naira, like you said. Like you are very. But I won't pay 10. I won't pay 10 naira every month to be able to withdraw for free. People just there's
But
just
it's not just our thing. We
it's not our
don't we
thing.
don't like it. Yeah, I
But when
agree.
you flip it to developed countries, flip it to Europe, flip it to UK, flip it to US, people naturally pay for subscription. Like it's just easy for them, right?
I totally agree with you. Is the reason, and I say this, it will come across to you as funny, but is the reason why some of us, our Amazon Prime, we cancel it
Hmm.
in and out, right? We cancel if I don't feel like I want to shop something, right? I'm going to be making it.
Amazon Prime, LinkedIn, Netflix. You just leave it there. You just remove
When
your
I
card.
need it, I do it.
You
When I
remove
need
your
it.
card.
It's not
But
just
you
our
see
thing.
some people that have never been to LinkedIn, Europeans, they naturally just. It's because it's even stressful to remove and
It's a
yeah.
cultural thing for Africans, yeah,
Um,
especially
yeah, so you just
sub-Saharan.
have to remain humble and
Hmm.
let the data and let the market teach you. A lot of us, and we are very emotional people as the way our consumer categories. Some people, because their parents use the bank, they use it. Some people, because of a color, so just let the markets and just remain hungry.
Larry, thanks a lot, right? As a matter of fact, I'm just lost, right? Because bringing it all together,
Hmm.
right? You wanted to provide a payment solution, make
Yes,
people's life easy,
yes,
right? See it or touch it, and your payment that's what you want set
yeah,
out to do, right?
yes.
And I dare say that that is that is a very viable solution. It will make people's life easier.
Till
But
now, even right now,
till tomorrow, right? It will
yes,
make people's life easier. It's just it seems to come way ahead of its time. People are not
yes,
ready for it, and people are still not ready for it, right?
yes,
At least in
yes,
certain climes.
yes,
But one way or the other, that one thing led to the other, right?
yes,
And you encountered a problem in the
yes.
process of running that, and that led you into, okay, maybe we need to do our own identity thing, and that
Mhm.
identity thing became the main
Became the main thing.
became the
Became the
main
main thing.
thing.
Accidentally, yeah, became the main thing, and we started to do change of name. So we changed the name from Identity Pay to Identity Pass. Today we have Identity Pass as a product. Then we said, wait, Identity Pass is a little bit limiting because it's like identity and pass. What if now we want to do background checks? Now we want to do anti-money laundering screening. Now we want to do compliance. Can we introduce a new brand that is big enough that means nothing? The three criteria that I gave
Yeah.
earlier, and that was it. And we just introduced Prembly, and we retained Identity Pass as a brand under Prembly, as a
On the
product under Prembly. And that's how we're, those are the three names we've called ourselves. So Identity Pay, Identity Pass, and Prembly.
Interesting. Man, thanks for sharing that because when I had this. By the way, Sefa was the first person that I had this interview with. Right? I don't know if you have spoken to him in recent past, Sefa, right? And he shared a similar story, right? That they started with something, and in the course of doing that, they realized that okay, yeah, that wasn't bad, but there's something even better, right? And I was having another interview with another lady called Tony Sanwo, right? She leads an outfit called Driver here in Nigeria, it's a logistics outfit. And then they started with taxi healing kind of service. Now they're into logistics. It looks like that is a pattern. You start with something, and in the course of doing it, you will kind of just stumble into an opportunity bigger than what you initially envisaged.
The only very few percentage of ideas or businesses that started as what they wanted to do and retained. YouTube was not a video. They didn't start off as a video streaming platform. I can't remember. Maybe it was a dating platform or something like that. It started with yeah, either dating or gaming. I can confirm that, but it wasn't. It was nothing to do with video. Yeah, and we can fact check that. I can't really remember, but a lot of businesses that I know, Uber, a lot of businesses that we've come to know right now that are now home name did not start as what they wanted to start with, which I agree with the concept of just start wherever you are. Just if what you want to do is start from wherever you are, but like I said, be very from a religious standpoint, they will call, or from a Christian standpoint, they call it the Holy Spirit, right? Be very observant, or be very be
Sensitive to what's going on around.
sensitive. From those that are not Christian and are not religious, you just call it maybe intuition or whatever it is.
Yeah.
The Holy Spirit that you need in the old business ham is your consumers and your customers.
What are they telling you?
If you speak to five people, if you speak to five people and they tell you point blank, especially like I said, don't speak to those that cannot tell you no. Speak to those that literally will look into your face. They don't have any emotional connection to you, and they'll tell you exactly what
Absolutely.
it is. And they tell you that, and you want to sell. Let's say you want to sell groceries, and they say, "I don't need groceries. I need someone that will massage my legs.
Mm.
Just massage their legs. Don't force it because there will be hundreds of people like that. There'll be thousands of people like that. I get as entrepreneurs and as business owners, we're very emotional people. In my hierarchy of emotional people, right? Entrepreneurs rank very high. Investors rank very high. Many of us sometimes we buy stocks because we think a business will fall or a business will fail, whatever it is, right? Politicians are very emotional. Apart from the fact that we're all emotional beings, entrepreneurs are very emotional. Even though there's a very thin line between being emotional about your idea. You say that it's not going to work. You say that, but you feel like no, and very dogged and very stubborn about it. So sometimes when you have to prove people wrong. Sometimes when you have to when nobody's saying it, you're like, I know this would work, right? But there's a very thin line between when the person that is meant to pay for it says this will not work.
And you need to be discerning to know when to.
To switch away from
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And the thin line comes when, if it's within your team, if right now we're a team member, right, and I say that this podcast would work, and you're saying it won't work, it's fine. We can argue it, and both of I can insist to say it's going to work. Let's go ahead with it.
Mm.
But when the listeners says this is not going to work, just leave it, right? Just leave it.
Hmm.
Let's just leave it the way it is. So literally, that's a thin line, and that's
Right.
where sometimes entrepreneurs needs to stop being emotional and listen to the customers and
To the
listen to the business.
consumers.
And like what you're saying, every single business, and I have to start, but a lot of businesses transition. It's called pivoting, just pivot from
Yeah,
one to another thing.
pivot into something.
Yeah,
This is so helpful. This is so helpful, Larry. Thanks a lot for sharing it.
yeah.
Now, we don't have a lot of time, right?
I-
But I really want you to you touch on something the other time, right? And I wanted to touch a bit more about it before we go, right? It's around the and you've shared a little bit of story around the role of people,
yes,
right?
yes.
Now, I will take this and I will bundle it into I'll take like three questions, I'll bundle it into one and then
Okay.
tackle them as you deem fit, right? So you shared the very inspiring story of how you basically that woman just basically became like a part
Yes.
of your support system or you are part of our support system, right?
Initially, yes, then we flipped.
Initially, and then it became reversed, right? Because
Yeah,
at some point you spoke to her and you're like, the dots connected and all that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You know, what do you do in building that kind of support system, right?
yeah,
You've shared a little bit of your story and all that. So, but what do you do? Is there a way you can be a bit more intentional, especially as an entrepreneur? Because
yeah,
I've
yes.
heard that this journey can be lonely, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
How do we ensure that we don't run crazy, right? Before we we get to that point. Number two is sorry, just a quick question. Like, how many people do you have in your organization now?
So right now we've expanded to as much as 40 staff.
40 spread
Yes,
across the world.
spread across the world. Yes.
40 people. Now, that is a huge organization, right? How do you maintain your sanity in ensuring that they are all working towards delivering the objective, the goals, and all of that in terms of what are the people practices that you have?
Hmm.
You understand? So that is second question. One is about support system, which is
Yeah.
mentors, mentees, and all of that. Number two is what are your people practices, right? To ensure that everybody in the organization is working towards the objective that the board is setting. And then I guess the final one, still on people and maintaining our sanity, will be around how you maintain balance, family, and all of that,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
3-1, and then we'll
Okay.
go to the next one. Hopefully, we'll be able to.
Good. Thanks. One, the support system, I would always say, as entrepreneurs, like you say, it's very lonely. It's one of the loneliest. It's very lonely. There's no other way to say it. And it's not a. It, when people say it's very lonely, it really is. And it's not to scare people away, but it's literally to just prepare people and prepare your expectation. So the first thing you want to do is to create the right support system around you. Have the right people that you can speak with. Things are not have people that you can be vulnerable with. One. Number two, and this is when you're setting up your support system, right? Have at least one or two people that you can be vulnerable with. And vulnerable in every sense of it. In I am tired, I am weak, I am lost, I'm confused, I am hungry, I am pissed. Every sense of emotion you can vividly share as a human being, you have them. They could be your life partners, they may not be, they could be a friend, but just have it. Um, number no, no, as part of the support system, have one or two people also that you can be accountable with. The concept of being an entrepreneur and being a founder, sometimes we a lot of founders shy away from being accountable. The whole concept of having a board sometimes is to be accountable, right? But for small businesses, sometimes you don't need a board. A lot of people don't get a board until maybe you get like, you start making like $10 million or a lot more or something like that. But be intentional about have one or two people within your support system that you're accountable with. They didn't ask you, but just tell them, um, we did Hex number this month. We're trying to do 2x next quarter. Don't bombard them with too many information, but just someone that you can respect a little bit their ideas and all that. And I think maybe another one or two person or one person that you can bounce ideas with. Just ideas of because as entrepreneurs, we always have this crazy idea. We want to do this, we want to do that, we want to do this, we want to do that, and just have someone that can just listen to you and just say, okay. No, 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 no.
Come back home.
Man, okay, you're going too far. This was the idea. We said we wanted to do verification, so stick to verification. Don't
Mm,
start doing, just literally be there. Or is the reverse for some people. Some people are good in execution, but they're very poor idea people. I've seen
mm,
entrepreneurs that do not have the best ideas, but they can literally execute, right? And so sometimes you need one or two people in your support system that can give you that idea. Because you have some people that are the idea people, but they don't know how to execute. They don't even know how to take the risk, right? So you need one or two people like that where they can just say, now you're doing verification. Why don't you do enrollment? Why don't And they just give it us a very subtle. To them, it's very small, but yeah. So that's how to build. Now, how to come about them, and I'll say that very quickly. How to come about them is just be selfless. Don't Just be selfless with. So, and by the way, when I was helping this particular customer back then, she wasn't the only one I was helping. She wasn't the only one I would go meet and help set up, right? So don't help people, or just be human. Being human
in
means,
hope that one day
yeah,
something.
if it comes back, it comes back. If it doesn't come back, it's normal. It's not. But in building up the support system, I would say, these things I've said, this you can be vulnerable with, this you can, they respect their ideas and all that, and that's it. And that could be anybody. It could be your sibling, it could be those around you, it could be those not around you. It could be even be a random stranger. It could be someone like you, someone just maybe goes on your podcast right now and come at me and say, you know, hi Kunde, can I have a chat with you? Can I have you as my support system? And if you're available, that's it. Um, on the two other topics that you did mention, the staff, yes, we do. And by the way, we our staff numbers, there was a time when it was tweeting. There was a time we did a merger with a company, and our staff strength was going close to 100. By the way, because they had a very large staff strength and all that, and then we dissolved the merger. And so the how and the second question around team management, team leadership, that in itself, it's completely different from entrepreneurship, in my own view. You have amazing founders, people that have ideas, but they are terrible leaders. Um, because somehow in the school of entrepreneurship, leadership is not. When I don't know if you've seen, if you've heard people, those that work with Steve Jobs or have written about them, they will tell you he wasn't the best boss.
People, yeah, Alento.
At some point, he had to be fired and brought
Yeah,
back. It wasn't the best
probably so.
people. Yeah, it wasn't the best people person. But of course, you can't take away how brilliant he is. You can't take away
Yeah,
his genius. You can't take away the impact he has made in this world, right? If people tell you other founders and how, I don't want to, but no, we've seen cases of even people saying, what's his name? This Tesla founder,
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. People also complain about he's not the best people kind of person. But you can't take away what Starlink is doing. You can't take away what. So what I would say is people management is a completely different conversation. I would always encourage entrepreneurs to take the time, learn it. You make mistakes. You hire the wrong people. You would you not know how to set up your KPIs and all that, right? The best thing you can do for yourself, the best thing you can do for yourself is having somebody, almost like your operations person or someone that can withstand the pressure and the energy that you bring in, and they can easily diffuse it across the team.
Down. Mm,
Because sometimes you have the right intentions, but you communicate wrongly. I've been a victim, by the way. I've been both a victim and also been the oppressor
mm.
in whatever. So sometimes you have the right
Oppressor
sometimes you have
General.
sometimes you have the right intentions. All you want is the company to grow. Yeah, guys, how can you grow our revenue? But some people receive it differently. Some employees will understand. Some wouldn't understand. Some employees say, you're not even as old as my younger brother or my younger sister. Why are you the one talking to me?" From cultural background? Some from a different culture feel like, oh yeah, that's fine. And there's internal politics and all that. And so I would strongly recommend that as an entrepreneur, don't assume that because you're a business owner, all of a sudden you understand leadership. Don't assume. You may know, you may not know. And so be sincere with yourself. If you're not the best leader, try to get people around you that can help you with that journey. Um, and of course, on the third question that you did ask around how do you balance and the idea of balancing, I think it's case by case. Depends on what people want to optimize for. Some people, because of your health condition, you have to optimize for more rests. And more people, some people you have to optimize for more networking, more. So it depends on the stage where you are at. At the early stage of your business, you're more optimizing around people knowing you, networking because you want to establish your dominance in that industry and all that. At some point, really you get tired of it because sometimes maybe even without every single month you get to speak, and sometimes you want to now spend time with your family and all that. But depending on the stage where you are in, do not trade. Don't trade your mental health for anything. You are as important as a business. Number one. Number two, don't trade your loved ones for it. If you make all the resources and all the successes in the world and there's no family member to say well done, you still feel lonely. There is no, and also don't trade being human for it. I understand how difficult it is to be a business person, but still have the empathy, and have the courage to just be human. Just be human. Just be, know that other people are also facing challenges, and don't be too arrogant about it. Um, and yeah, that's what I would say. And as long as you keep on those things, that you can. I don't have the best hack to say this is how you should create balance because people are in different conditions. You live in different country. I live in a different country. My realities are quite different. But as long as you don't don't trade your mental health. You have to be mentally strong. You can't give what you don't take. If you're unhappy, you can't lead a team that is happy. You and the energy, people take the energy from the top. If you have a boss that is very indisciplined, not disciplined, you can easily see from the team the moment you enter the company, you can see that this company is not disciplined, right? So that's what I would say. Don't trade your mental health. Be in the right state of mind. Always be focused. Then number two, don't it doesn't worth it. You have millions in your bank account, but you don't have any family member or anybody that can say, I'm proud of you, right? Because sometimes when people are home say I'm proud of you, it's worth more than even when people outside say I'm proud of you, right? So don't trade it. Don't trade it, and don't trade it means that maybe you want to spend more time with them. Ensure that your schedule is clear. Sometimes some weekend intentionally shut down. It's hard, by the way, but some weekend don't open your laptop. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. You'll
Yes,
be
sir.
fine. Just shut your laptop and say, "Let me do a movie night
With family.
with family, or my friend. Let me invite one
Mm,
friend and I'll just do a movie night." You'll be
mm.
fine. You'll be fine. On Monday, you resume whatever happened. Let it happen. And by the way, I usually advise people that if you build a business and you cannot take a day, 2 days, 1 week off without something crumbling, then you've not built a foundation of
Yeah.
business. You've not built a business that is strong. If
Mm.
you cannot take a week off your business and say, and you're not
Automatic.
short, and
Mm.
something will not crumble, you're not because the idea of building a business is that there's going to be a point where you transition out and hand it over to somebody else and you keep
Yeah.
going. But remember, I'm sure you know this, a lot of businesses in our clients, the moment the founder dies, that business within a year or two,
Yeah.
even the family members cannot be, they don't even have the knowledge, they don't even understand what this person does, right?
I know.
So yeah, I usually encourage people to say, build a business that you can stay away from for days.
I agree. I agree. And I think it's a very sound advice that I hope that, people we all can really embrace, right? And be intentional about. It takes a lot of work, just like you've alluded
It
to. It
does.
takes
It
a
does.
whole lot of work to build
Yes.
systems
Yes.
and processes that are self-running,
Yeah.
right? But I think in it lies our rests and peace of mind, and peace of mind,
Yes.
and
Yes.
peace of mind,
Yes.
right? But
Yes.
you know, I mean, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for sharing that.
Yeah.
We should be seek people out and people who can, give us ideas, right? The idea
Yes.
people, people who can execute, people
Yes.
who can be accountable to,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And not just try to help people just because we're looking for something to come back, right? We should,
Yeah.
as much
Yes.
as
Yes.
possible, be
Just
very true in our intentions.
be
Just do
true.
it because
Yeah.
it's the right thing to do. We should be human, right? Those are the ideas, and those are very, very helpful.
And even if you're a transactional person, I would say be upfront with it. If I'm giving you
That's
something right now, yeah. If I'm giving you something right now because I expect something in return, just
say, hey,
I'm giving you this now, please. When I come,
this is what I want in return. Let
I
our
may not
prayers not
know,
be
but at
clashing.
least you owe me one, right? That's the way it operates in the intelligence community.
Yeah,
That's how somebody just say, I'm giving you this intelligence right now. You owe me one.
you owe me
So
one,
let
right?
them know that
You owe me
that's it.
one.
You owe
Okay,
me one.
okay, I get it. And it's a fair point to make, right? So thanks a lot for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Now, a few questions, and I think we should, before Coyote comes after the two of us, we should begin to, bring it to a wrap, Larry. So you already mentioned that, you've been able to raise, I mean, millions, $30
Hmm.
million, and that's a lot of money, right? And people can, do the math. But before you got to that point where you were able to raise, was it $300,000 or something initially,
Well,
or 250,
yeah, initially 350, then
350,
went
and
up
all
to
of that, and on and
yeah,
on like that? I
yeah.
mean, the moment you build the credibility, right, the money will just be, they'll probably be chasing you with come and take, right? The question I want to ask, Lanre, is around before that initial raise,
Yes.
right? When you had to basically bootstrap and
Yes.
hustle and find, how did you overcome that, that how did you navigate that particular turn,
Hmm.
that funding challenge, which is the bane of, every, every entrepreneur, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thankfully, you already have a solution that is,
Yes.
that is now marketable and scalable, right?
Hmm.
But how did you go about managing that transition of, getting from a place where you don't have sufficient working capital to the place where you're
Yeah.
not able to raise funds and raise different rounds of funding?
I would, and I'll be very practical on this, so that whoever is going to listen would pick it up. One is, well, so maybe rather than telling my story of how I did, I would just be practical on also learning if I do this again, what I would do. One is identify the most important thing that you need at the point of building. And what I mean is this. So let's say you have an idea. You want to build, let's say, a logistic company. So what do you need? Maybe you need you want to build a mobile app for it. And then number two, you want to do sales. Whatever it is, just identify the most critical resources that you need to get to something called an MVP, which is the minimum viable product, which is the minimum, and it doesn't have to be fancy. We all witnessed the first few pages of Facebook compared to where it is now. That in itself is not even an MVP because Facebook has been done years before, so you can know how ugly probably it was. There are a lot of businesses that I know that are now multi what I mean, the valuations are hundreds of millions of dollars. A lot of them are my friends. They started their company with like an Excel sheet. Until they were able to now build a software to automate. So minimum viable product does not have to be a very fancy shining software, very fancy shiny hardware, a very fancy shiny shop or store that you have to open. It could be you wanting to, have a fashion store, and you literally just want to start, right in the comfort of your home, right? Create a small space. That's your MVP. Just the minimum viable product that you can do. Um, And so that's the first thing you want to do. And so you should identify what resources do I need. The moment you identify the resources that you need, right? How can I get the resources to get there? And here are the steps. Number one, idea acceleration programs, incubation programs, or support programs around me, locally, internationally that I can reach out to. So you would just search and say, let's imagine a woman. How many initiative support women-led businesses can I apply to? And begin to apply to as many as possible. It could be through training, it could be through whatever it is, but those things help, right? They help. That's number one you want to do. Number two is the concept of family, friends, and fools.
I just
If
got the third one for the first time today. Family,
3M,
friends, and fools.
3M, family, friends, and fools, right? Somehow sketch it somehow on your who are the family, friends, and fools that you know can you can speak to and they can support either through connection, either through advice, either through even though the idea is money, right? And ultimately, of course, money. And for the fools, and here's the hack for the fools, what you tell them is try to create a FOMO in them, the fear of missing out, right? If you give me this amount right now, number one, I'll give you 5% of my company. I'll give you 2% of my company. I'll give you 0 point something percent of my company, which I know would become X amount, which of course I will go into this. Try to see, and don't lie, don't do anything, but just is a conviction, right? So try to create FOMO for the fools. You see the family guys, the family ones, right? You know how to get the people the way you want to get them. And for your friends also, you want to sell. So you want to be because one of the first skill you need to have as a business person, as an entrepreneur, is being a salesperson. If you cannot sell your idea, you cannot sell your concept, even before you hire a salesperson, like if you cannot sell and say this is it, then maybe you should get something else to do, right? Um, number two is your triple F. Activate your triple F. And the third one is how fast can I get my first customer? The race is to get your first customer, right? And then what can I do? And sometimes, let me say, you want to be the logistic company, right? You need an app and all that. Can you speak to somebody, just one person, that wants to send a package from UK to Nigeria, and you yourself, you physically go and pick up the item. You yourself will physically try to connect to somebody else that is sending that package, right? Like literally, and that's the first customer, right? You'll be so shocked that you can use the money from that first customer to build that product. You'll be so surprised, right? And literally, these are some of the steps that I would recommend for anybody that is bootstrapping. Um, then also the fourth thing is what skill or services do you have that you can do on the side to power this thing? What that means is some of us, we can write. Some of us we can volunteer somebody somewhere else, they'll pay us, right? And we use the money to power these things. Sometimes we can do something extra, right?
Mm.
For people that are not too young, that already have families and have the minimum money you have to be, minimum house rent and everything you have to
Oh,
be
you need
paying.
to commit to every month. Yeah.
You want to speak to your partner to say,
Can
what can we
we?
what can we reduce here just to, in return, don't worry, in
Yeah.
return I will,
Mm.
and if you are blessed with a very good family and very good partners, partners sometimes they will understand, but don't blame them if they don't understand.
Mm.
Because they don't see exactly what you see, right? But when
Mm.
you can just reduce some portion of your budget, it could mean that you yourself have to eat less.
Yeah.
It could mean that you have to stop your vacation for the next 2 3 years.
Mm.
But those are the practical steps I would say. Those are some of the things that I did. I got my 3 Fs, by the way. I got
Mm.
my 3 Fs. My sibling contributed at some point. I got my 3 Fs. I got my friends also to contribute. So I did most of those things that I did say, that
Mm.
I mentioned here, and it works. It may not work for everyone. It may not work for all use cases, but
Yeah.
one or two of it may work.
Wow. Three Fs. I mean, I've always known family and friends, right? The
You have
third
to bring food.
dimension is the new
You have to
ones.
bring, you have to bring the foods in. They're not, and I know it doesn't sound right, but you have to be able to
No,
fool
I
them.
think we all get it, right? I think we all get it
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, it's not that we you're not telling us to defraud them or to
No,
you
no.
understand. I think it's a nice cliche, it sounds good, right? At the end of the day, you're
Maybe I'll
asking
call
us
them.
to
Maybe I should call them angel investors. Let's just call them angel investors.
enjoy whatever, let's call it whatever we want to call it. But
Okay.
the key thing at the end of the day is, Larry, what I hear you say clearly is don't lie to them, right?
No.
Sell to them,
Yes.
right?
Sell.
This is where the business is today. This is what I need from you. this is what it's going to become, right? And all of that being very factual about your conviction, right? And
You have
then
to be clear.
it goes from there,
You
which
have to
I
be clear.
think I think is fair enough.
Yeah. You have to be very clear. You have to be very you have to be
Mm.
convinced yourself that this will become this and next thing. You may not know exactly what you have to do
Mm.
for you to get there, but
But you know the potential is.
have to be a good salesperson.
Larry, now I have a question about your pivotal moment. That
Yes.
moment when you realize that, guys, we are no longer a payment solution company. We are
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
now
A data
a
company.
an
Yeah.
identity verification company,
Yeah.
right? Now that it's safe to say that that was like your inflection point because at
Yes.
that point everything just changed, right? Now the question is, at that point, not far from, not long from that point, I think you also resigned. You also,
Yeah. Yeah.
started putting
Yeah.
everything into it,
Yeah.
and you know, I was just wondering, you had an idea this would be big, but did you know how big it could be?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
How did you go about that? That quantification, that whole,
Yeah. So again, like you said, the one thing that we shouldn't downplay as business owners, something called our intuition, and we all have it. We all have our instincts. You you have it somewhere that maybe there's something here, right? But you're not sure. So one of the things you can do is to now do research, right? To read more, get more research, and all that. For me, what made me more confident about the idea and what we're solving was when I now began to do more research, when I now began to say that I have witnessed this before. I've tried to open a bank account, I've tried to transact, I've tried to get a contract outside of my country, and I couldn't because this person does not trust me, right? I did not lay it on racism or lay it on, I just lay it on the fact that this person is fair that this person is not giving me this contract because they really do not know me, right? And so that was where the transition really happened, right? And I would vividly say that for so many people that all you need sometimes is just that hunch that maybe there's something here. And we people don't know, but we make we make these these very risky decisions on everything we do in lives. We just don't know. Many of us watch a movie by we just go and say, maybe this movie will be interesting. You've not watched the movie before, but okay, maybe it will be interesting, and you play. And sometimes it's interesting, sometimes it's not. Uh, maybe this place will be good. Maybe this school will be good. Maybe this food will be, and we make those concrete. It's the same way you could also make the same thing when it comes to business, right? But then the only difference is that when you have that intuition and that nudge that look at this, right? Take some time to look at it. You cannot be an entrepreneur when you're not a good student of history. And what that means is, do we have anybody that has done this before? Because here's a litmus test. By the way, here's a litmus test for those that have ideas. Let me give it for free. The litmus test is, well, there are two litmus tests, so you can go with to any of these two options. One, if this is a novel idea, a very novel idea, even though the school of thought that there's no new idea anymore. But if this is a novel idea that I think is so amazing and whatever it is, if you're the only one that has, if no one is doing it, right? The two things. It's either you're so smart than anybody in the world or anybody around you there, or you're just too dumb that you don't know that it's not going to work. Right. So it's either you're so smart or you're just too dumb. And you have to be honest with yourself. Am I too dumb? Maybe this wouldn't work. And people know already that nobody's doing it. That's the first litmus test. And you have to answer that question yourself and maybe get somebody
Yeah.
else to say, am I really dumb? Second litmus test is talk to what's called this one may not even apply, but talk to an elderly woman. I
Okay.
always believe in this one. Talk to an elderly woman. Most of the elderly women they don't really care that much. Just tell them about your idea. Just get them understand. If they don't understand what you're saying, if they don't understand, change it.
If they
Take
can't
me.
get it, if another woman cannot get it, change it.
Cannot get yeah. If you're trying to if you're trying difficult to and bring it to that level, and if they can't get it, you want and here's why you want to do that. Here's why you want to do that because especially when you're in tech, a lot of tech, we assume that people know tech. No. The moment you can tell someone, an elderly woman that is not so much techie, everything, and they can say, okay, I will pay. The moment you can get that litmus test and you get it right, right?
It means that
You can easily convince a customer. You can easily, it's easy. You can That's the litmus test to say, okay, now if an elderly woman
got it.
can get it, right?
Then
Somebody maybe younger will get it as well.
yeah, yeah.
Two free litmus tests check. So I don't know if I was able to answer the question, but that was the transition for me. That's how we were able to transition. So be a very good student of
Of
history.
history.
Know companies that have come before you that have tried it. Know the traction of that industry. Know the trajectory. You know how things apply.
Mm,
Um, because if you're just in your bubble and think that you're the smartest person, you're very smart. But if you think you're the smartest person in the world, you just may be the dumbest person as well. Okay.
I agree. I agree. And thanks for sharing that. I think it's helpful, right?
Mhm.
That when people come up with idea and I feel like there's something here, right?
Yeah.
To double click into it, do a little
Yeah.
bit of market research, right? And
Yeah.
whatever form that would take, read
Whatever
up on
form that would.
somebody,
Yeah. Yeah.
but do it just to have an idea of what you're now. You may end up not being totally accurate. You may end up arriving at numbers that will be way more conservative than it should.
Yes.
But
Yes.
at least, but you have a fair idea of what is coming, and you can
Yes.
start
Yeah.
building, and then you start,
Yeah.
scaling
Yes.
things
Okay.
up as
Do,
reality begin to dawn
do,
and
do
all
do
that.
you mind if I had just one or two sentences there?
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Execution is more important than the idea. Execution.
Mm,
So when you have an idea, please spend more time on how you execute, not really on the idea. So the idea
mm,
could be you want to transport a package from, like I say, UK to Lagos. Think more about the execution because you can have many of us have ideas. We don't work on these ideas. Few months later, we see somebody else doing it. A few years later, and we're like, "Oh, I thought about this thing before."
that happens a lot.
You can still do it. You can still do the same thing
Yeah,
because there are no two ways to execute. So
yeah.
spend more time about the execution than really more about the
Done.
idea. Yeah. And then as a business person, think more about your first customer. How will I get my first customer? Then gradually grow. How will I get my 10th customer? Then once you get your first 10 customer, it becomes a little bit easier.
So yeah, two thoughts from that build from you. Number one is my first customer, my first
Yeah.
10 customers, and then we go from there. Then
Just
execution,
do, yeah, just
execution,
do
execution.
110, 110, 100. Just do 110, 100. The moment you can get one, whatever you did to get the one, do the same thing. Just multiply by 10. You probably
Yeah,
get your first 10 customers. Then multiply by 100.
and from there you just begin to. That's very helpful. Now our time is up, but I won't let you go without asking you just one more question. Just one more question, right? And the question is around, and you touched a little bit on it earlier when you said that if you would do it differently, right? If
Hmm.
so if you look back, say 5 years ago,
Yeah,
right, and
yeah,
you spoke specifically to fundraising, but I
yes,
wanted to broaden that into every aspect of the business now,
yeah.
right? So if you look back and say, 5 years ago, this is where we were, and this is how far we've been able to come, but we could have even done even better if
Hmm.
we had done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 differently, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, what will those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, different things be, right? What will you do differently?
Yeah.
Advice to your younger self, and of course, the young entrepreneur self.
So, and thanks for that. What would I do differently? One would be, I think at some point in the business, we're spreading out rather than being laser focused on one or two things, right?
Mm,
So, and we've corrected that right now in the business. We've corrected that, but I probably wouldn't even try to spread that.
mm,
I probably just, it's better to keep digging on a spot or two spots
yeah.
than keep digging multiple spots. So I would use that. So that's the first one. Second thing also that I would do from a business perspective, and I'm trying to think about it both from fundraising all the way to customer acquisition and
Mm,
team is fire very fast.
mm.
Um,
That's scary.
yes, because eventually you still fire the person or you still let them go.
Mm,
You can don't When you have team members that you are convinced are not committed to the same vision that you have, try as much as you can to make them, trainings and everything and all that. But you may begin to hurt your business when you let them stay back, because few things may happen. They begin to, it's almost like cancer. They begin to affect other team members. They begin to build cultures that, and because you as a business person, sometimes people don't know this. A lot of business people spend less time on physically in the business because you're out there chasing fundraising. You're out there going to go and speak in something. You're out there going for external meeting. By the time you're back, team culture, uh, is changed because you were not physically there, and because you cannot be physically there, because if you're physically there, other things will lose, because your role as the founder of a business is even to be outsider, right? And when you allow a cancer to remain, it's going to hurt you eventually, right? So
Somebody's threatening to shut us down.
so
Yeah, we get it.
so that's what I would say. So this is what I would say. So don't, and it's one of the most difficult things to do, by the way, but just saying, don't be shy from it. Those are the
Mm,
top two reasons I would say, right? Really. Every other thing I probably do the same thing. I probably do the same way. Yeah, I probably do the same way. Really, these are the top two things I would say. So, and maybe the second one will be more about the team dynamics. Invest heavily in team dynamics and team culture, right?
mm.
And you always get it right from then on.
Well, it's been such a pleasure talking to you, Mr. Lanre Ogungbe. Thank you so much for all that you have shared today. I mean, I've been so inspired by your story, right? By your transparency and how you navigated your journey, right? So thank you. I don't even know how to say thank you than to just say thank you and keep saying it multiple times, right? You said, you get one and then multiply it by 100. So let me multiply
Yeah.
my thanks by
Okay.
100.
Receive. Thank you so much for having me here. It's been an interesting conversation.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
it is. Thanks a lot. Thanks a
You're
lot, right?
welcome.
Hey, thanks a lot for taking the time to watch the podcast. We are super thankful for you taking that time and investing the time to learn. We hope that you find the story inspiring, and beyond that, that you've been able to articulate one or two things that you want to do differently in your own entrepreneurial journey. May I encourage you to please like, subscribe, comment, and please share the word within your own circle of influence, especially within those that you think are on the same entrepreneurial journey with you. May I also encourage you to please, beyond subscribing to our YouTube channel, follow us on our other social media platforms. That means a lot to us, and we can see that that helps us to track that we're making some progress and so making some impact. Thanks a lot once again for taking the time to watch, and to see you on the next episode.